I am sorry, but Billy Budd is not a homosexual book.
That's Carmela Soprano, sitting at a dinner table in Manhattan, surrounded by her daughter's Ivy League circle, losing her mind over a 19th century novella she may not have actually finished. And here's the thing nobody talks about. She isn't really arguing about Billy Budd. She's arguing about her entire life. Every fantasy, every lie, every choice she spent 20 years trying not to look at. So why does she fight this hard? Why this book? Why this night? The answer is one of the most quietly devastating character studies The Sopranos ever pulled off. Quick context for anyone who needs it. Season 4, Episode 12, Eloise. The Sopranos drive into Manhattan for dinner at Meadows' new apartment. Tony's there, AJ's there, Meadows' roommates are there.
Oh, Finn the dentist, right?
Finn, the boyfriend, the future dentist.
Colin McDermott. I'm not gay.
Colin, the roommate Tony will spend half the night accidentally assuming is gay.
Alex is descended from Spanish royalty.
Alessandra, the other roommate, old money, descended from a Spanish countess, the kind of background Carmela quietly fixates on all night.
I got a C on a paper I did on Billy Budd.
AJ mentions he got a C on a school paper about Billy Budd.
My teacher says it's a gay book.
His teacher told him it was a gay book. The whole table picks the thread up. Herman Melville, a book about a beautiful young sailor and the master-at-arms who destroys him. The students suggest the master-at-arms, Claggart, is driven by repressed homosexual desire. It's a pretty standard literary reading. It has been for decades.
Oh, that is ridiculous.
Carmela detonates. She calls it ridiculous. She calls it gay nonsense pervading the educational system. She fires sarcasm at the biblical Adam comparison. It's a biblical reference. Does that make it gay? And when Meadows cites a serious literary critic, Carmela snaps that the critic must be gay too. She will not back down. She cannot back down. And the question is, why? Because nothing in that scene is actually about Billy Budd. Not really. The book is just the surface. Underneath it, Carmela is fighting a war on 3 fronts at the same time, and we need to talk about each one. Front number 1, Furio. Right before this dinner, and I mean literally hours before, Carmela has learned that Furio Junta has fled to Italy.
Furio called a stupid fucking zippo back to Italy.
No goodbye, no phone call, no closure. The man she spent the entire season fantasizing about has vanished. And it matters that we understand what Furio meant to her. Tony eats rigatoni out of the pan, standing at the fridge, drinking from a milk carton. Furio cooked. He set the table. He poured the wine. He took her to look at his house. He understood opera. He represented an entire life Carmela believed she deserved and could never have. So she walks into this dinner already gutted, already grieving a man she never even slept with. And what does she hear at the table? The students describe Billy Budd, young, beautiful, innocent, compared by Melville to Adam before the fall, picked on by his boss. Now stop and think about what's running through Carmela's head. Furio had a ponytail. Furio was, in her mind, the gentle one, the good one, the one being abused by Tony, by the boss. In that single moment, every romantic image Carmela has been clinging to for months gets handed back to her in literary form. And then the kids at the table cap it off by saying the beautiful young sailor was probably gay. It is not just an interpretation she disagrees with. It's an interpretation that takes her last private fantasy and lights it on fire in front of strangers. She fights because she has nothing else left to fight for. Front number 2, the education gap.
Would you rather I transfer to Montclair State?
Carmela dropped out of Montclair State to marry Tony. That fact haunts her. The show goes back to it again and again. Remember her therapist?
Well, we can't do justice to any discussion of Madame Bovary over the phone.
Remember how embarrassed she was when she didn't know who Madame Bovary was? Remember her opera obsession? Her movie club? She is constantly trying to perform a level of culture she did not earn and does not actually possess. Now look at the table she's sitting at. Meadow is in her sophomore year at Columbia. Finn is studying to be a dentist with an all-American family. Colin reads literature for fun. These kids are everything Carmela once told herself she could have been, and they are dissecting a book she spent weeks living inside, helping AJ with his paper, watching the Terrence Stamp film, and they are reading it in a way she cannot follow. Here's the part people miss. Carmela is not stupid. She prepared. She walked into that dinner ready to participate in a real intellectual conversation, probably for the first time in years. And then the students start talking about subtext, symbolism, repression, allegorical readings of a homoerotic master-at-arms. And Carmela realizes she's 2 steps behind, again. You can see the moment it happens. Her face shifts. The smile freezes. She came here to prove she belonged at this table, and the table just told her, politely, that she doesn't. So she does the only thing left to do. She picks the loudest hill she can find, and she dies on it. That's a quotable moment, by the way. Carmela picked the loudest hill she could find, and she died on it. Front number 3, and this is the one that really hurts. Watch this small moment in the scene that almost everyone glosses over. Colin, one of the roommates, leans across the table and tells Carmela something that should be a compliment.
Your daughter absolutely keeps us alive with her cooking.
He says her daughter Meadow keeps the apartment alive with her cooking. Meadow cooks for the household. Meadow runs that kitchen. Think about what that lands as for Carmela. The one role she spent 20 years claiming as her own, the homemaker, the wife who feeds the family, her daughter is doing it better, in a Manhattan apartment, while also getting an Ivy League degree. Carmela hears it as praise on the surface, and as an obituary underneath. She is not a successful career woman. She is not an artist. She is not a scholar. She is the wife of a violent man, driving a luxury car paid for by violence, sitting at a dinner with kids whose futures are clean. And then the wound goes deeper.
Leslie Fiedler has written extensively on gay themes in literature since...
Meadow drops the name Leslie Fiedler, a literary critic who's written about Billy Budd's gay themes for decades. Carmela waves it off. Well, she doesn't know what she's talking about. Meadow corrects her in front of everyone. She's a he, mother, and he's lectured at Columbia, as a matter of fact. Wrong about the book, wrong about the critic's gender, wrong even about who lectures at her own daughter's university. 3 losses in 1 sentence, in front of strangers. This is the dinner where Carmela has to confront, all at once, every single thing she has been running from. Furio is gone, her marriage is loveless, her son is failing, her daughter is leaving her behind, and the strangers at the table can see all of it more clearly than she's ever let herself see it. So when the conversation lands on a young, beautiful sailor being destroyed by his powerful boss, by his Don, if you want to push the metaphor, Carmela does not have the bandwidth to hear it as literature, because in that moment, she is Billy Budd's story, and she is Claggart's story. She's both characters at the same time. That's the front nobody warns you about. Now here's where it all comes together.
Billy Budd is the story of an innocent sailor.
Billy Budd, the actual book, is a story about a beautiful innocent destroyed by a powerful man who can't admit what he feels. The master-at-arms, Claggart, watches Billy, wants Billy, cannot have him, so he destroys him. Read that again with the Sopranos in your head. Furio is Billy, beautiful, foreign, gentle, out of place in a brutal world.
If Tony suspects 1 iota, you know what'll happen to Furio.
Tony is Claggart, the boss who, if he ever found out about Furio and Carmela, would absolutely have him killed. We know this. Furio knew this. That's why Furio ran. But Carmela is also Claggart, because Carmela is the one who watched Furio, wanted Furio, could not have Furio. And by failing to act on her feelings, by staying in her marriage, by accepting the money, by performing the role, she sealed Furio's exile just as surely as Tony would have sealed his death. That is the interpretation she cannot let into the room. Because if Billy Budd is a story about a beautiful young man destroyed by the desires of his boss, desires the boss won't admit, then Carmela's story is the same story. And she has spent 20 years building an elaborate self-defense system to avoid noticing it. Her therapist called her on it. Her own daughter called her on it.
Why would you bring this up? Fucking morbid, that's what it is.
Even Rosalie April, 2 seasons later in Paris, basically calls her a morbid hypocrite for trying to find soul-searching in a vacation, while Ro just enjoys herself like a normal human being. So when those college kids casually toss that interpretation onto the dinner table, Carmela is not having a literary disagreement. She is shutting down a self-recognition, a whole interpretation of her own life that she will not allow herself to see. I'm sorry, but Billy Budd is not a homosexual book. She's not sorry. That's the tell. The I'm sorry is armor. Underneath it is a woman who knows, on some level, exactly what the book is about, and what her own life is about, and cannot let either truth into the room. Because the subject she's actually closing is herself. This is what makes The Sopranos The Sopranos. A scene that looks, at first glance, like a comic blow-up over a book becomes, when you sit with it, a complete portrait of a woman in psychological collapse. Carmela isn't fighting because she's dumb. She's fighting because she's overwhelmed. 3 wounds, 1 table, no exit. The Furio she just lost. The education gap she just got reminded of. The mirror the conversation just held up to her face. All of it firing off at once, in front of strangers, while her daughter watches. So she grabs the only weapon she has. Volume, conviction, the performance of certainty. She picks the loudest hill, and she dies on it. And here's the part that gets me.
Billy Bud's the ship's florist, right?
Tony, of all people, handles the dinner gracefully. He's polite, he's funny. He even apologizes to Colin in case he offended him. The brutal husband adapts. The cultured wife implodes. That's not an accident. The show is telling you something there. Seasons later, Carmela goes to Paris. She tries again to find depth. She fails again. Rosalie has the time of her life. Carmela stares at clouds and pretends they mean something. Some characters get arcs. Carmela gets a loop. And the Billy Budd dinner is the moment the loop becomes visible. So here's my question for you, and I genuinely want to hear it. Is Carmela's reading of Billy Budd actually wrong? Or is she defending an interpretation that she just can't articulate against students who are technically correct but emotionally clueless? Drop it in the comments. I read them. I'll argue with you. If this kind of breakdown is what you're here for, the Sopranos rabbit hole goes deep on this channel. Subscribe. See you in the next one.